All right, so here let's talk a little bit about your environment setup. Now I want to just let you know that when you're just getting started, or if the expectation from a new job is just a query stuff, the environment will already be set up for you. Generally the environment setup and tuning and all these things are DBAs or database administrators take care of this. But the whole point over here is, if it is really very simple and if you'd like to follow certain exercises with me, let us take some time and set up a very simple environment in order to get started. All right, so we will be using SQL Server, and again you can really use any flavor, 2008, 2012, 2014, any version. The things that we will be using are something like just creating databases, tables, joins and stuff. So pretty much whatever you choose, it should work. If you are able to install other database engines like Oracle or MySQL and stuff, feel free to do that. There will be slight syntax changes and stuff. So we'll be just using SQL Server here. And also we will be using the free editions of SQL Server so that you don't have to do any investments when you get started. So before we take a deep dive into the installation part, let's look at at least two simple differences between database and tools, right? When you install a database engine, which is typically called as a database engine like SQL Server and stuff, you put in data in it and you write queries to retrieve the data from it. That's the basic principle, right? Now, how do you pass on the query to the database engine and get the answers back? Well, there are many ways to do that. You could simply type in your syntax in Notepad or something, and then via command line just supply that query to the database engine and get it back to us. Now, this is where tools help us. Tools are nothing but just a software which helps you interact with the database. The tools are not the database. All it does is takes your query, passes it on to the database, gets the answers back, and then displays it in a human readable format. So it's for convenience sake that we use these tools. So let's look at a few differences. So let's assume you have a database. It's situated in London. There is another database in USA and another database in Australia. So as I mentioned before, you could very well connect to these databases and then just pass on your queries via text, via command line and stuff, right? But a simpler way is to use a tool. And Microsoft, when you install the database engine, it gives you an option of installing a tool called a SQL Server Management Studio, right? So in Management Studio, you can just provide a connection string, basically the address of the London database or the address of the USA database. We will look at a few examples, and just connect to that database and directly interact with the database right from the tool, right? And that's where these things become really, really handy. It just speeds up your overall querying effort. It provides you a lot of hints. It provides you a lot of syntax checking, right? When you type in a query, even before it sends it to the database, it can tell you whether your query is right or not. Whereas if you use your command prompt and stuff, the typical way of doing it is you type in a query, it sends to the database, and the database executes it and realizes there is an error and sends back an error message. So all those things becomes really very easy when you use a tool. And in this case, we will be using something called as a SQL Server Management Studio. We'll go through the installation, we'll connect to a few databases, and we will write some simple queries against these databases. Now, these tools are also called as IDEs, or Integrated Development Environments. So just a technical term, nothing to worry too much about it. Just thought I'll throw it in there. All right, so we talked about databases and tools. So let me just walk you through how to install your basic tools and databases and get your environment set up and running. So let me just Google the Express link so that you can follow along with me. And I generally just type in something like this, so that the links always change. So I just hate putting it in the descriptions of videos and stuff. So I just follow the normal route of searching for it and downloading the required tools. So if you click on the first link, it'll show you a download option for downloading the Microsoft SQL Server 2014 Express. Now Express editions are free editions with very limited features, but will have everything that we will need for this course. So as soon as you click on download, it's going to give you a bunch of options over here. And what you want to do is actually go ahead and download this one, depending upon if you have a 32-bit machine or a 64-bit machine. You need to download the Express Advanced Edition. That'll basically have the database engine as well as the management studio, the tools that we talked about. So I'm just in the process of downloading this. So you can see I'm going to pause this video right now, and after it downloads, I'm going to take you through a step-by-step process of installing the database engine and the tools, and then after that we can get started with our course. Okay, so we have downloaded the software now, and you can see that it's about 1.1 GB. So I'm going to go ahead and just run this executable, and that'll give you a couple of options to install your database as well as install the tools. So let's just wait for a minute. All right, so you get two options here. I'm going to start the standalone installation, and okay, it looks like there is something running. So let me just make sure I've closed everything. Okay, let me retry it. Okay, so this will basically open up a wizard for you, and it's kind of a step-by-step process, but it's extremely simple. Okay, in the next step you see that there are a couple of options that you need to choose, and one of them is the management tools. And so your management tools get installed over here, and this is the database engine services. So we don't have to change anything, just click next. All right, and then I'm going to call this as SQL Express just to keep it very simple. Click next, and then it's going to ask you a couple of questions for server configuration. Again, we can just keep everything as it is. No need to make any changes as such. Just keep on clicking next. Okay, so don't worry about mixed mode and Windows authentication. We'll cover that later, but mixed mode is basically you just enter any password that you can remember, and this password will be used for logging into your databases. So I generally like mixed mode in my development environments. Again, nothing very special about it in this course. Just type in some password you can remember and click next. And reporting services, again, we're not going to cover reporting services, so it really doesn't matter if you whatever you choose, and then click next. And then this will take about a couple of minutes, maybe 20 minutes or 25 minutes, depending upon what kind of machine you're using. So I'm going to pause this video for some time, and when it completes, we will just review its installation. Okay, so when the installation is completed, you will find a success page where it will show you all the components that was installed, and whether the installation succeeded or not. And let's see, what do we have here? So in SQL 2014, you should find Management Studio. So if you click on that, this was the tool I was talking about. And this is where basically you can connect to your server, right? In this case, it must have installed with a name that is the same as your machine name, or you could just type localhost or basically just a dot, and it'll connect you to the database engine. Now Here, if you remember, we had basically named this instance as SQL Express, right? So we need to, so the way it works is you enter in the name, then a backslash, and then your instance name. So basically you can have multiple instances of SQL installed on your machine, and you can access them using their instance names. The other one where we talked about mixed mode was, you remember the password that I asked you to enter, that will be easy for you to remember, and that's how you log in over here. So you just enter the same password. So I had entered as pass@123, and then the login is SA. And if you enter in the password, you will basically see that you are connected to the database. So this tool is the IDE that we talked about, and this helps you connect your database. Now in the coming tutorials, we will look at how to create a database, how to put in a few tables, how to put in a couple of data, and then how to query it.